The underground laboratory was silent except for the faint hum of machines. White lights flickered across the metallic walls, casting long shadows over rows of complex equipment. Dr. Marcus Hale stood near the center of the room, wearing a plain gray lab coat and a look of deep concentration. He had been preparing for this moment for almost 10 years. The experiment was called Project Mirrorline, and its goal was to understand the border between physical matter and the unknown energy that existed beyond it. Marcus believed that everything, atoms, space, even time, was just a reflection of something greater. At the far end of the lab, a glowing sphere floated inside a transparent containment field. The sphere was wrapped in a strange, silver-like material that shimmered like liquid light. They called it the cloth. No one knew what it was made of, not even Marcus. The material had been discovered by chance during a deep space expedition, and it defied every known law of physics. As Marcus stared at the floating sphere, his assistant, Dr. Ilara Voss, entered the room. She was calm and confident, her dark hair tied neatly, her expression unreadable. She had been working with Marcus for 5 years, though sometimes she seemed to know things he had never told her. "Ilara," Marcus said, glancing at her, "the readings are off the charts. The energy around the cloth is growing again. It's reacting before we even begin." Ilara approached the containment field and looked at the glowing object. "It's waiting," she said softly. "Waiting for what?" Marcus asked, his brow furrowing. "For you," she replied. Marcus frowned. "That's not scientific reasoning." "Neither is the cloth," Ilara said, almost smiling. "But it listens. It responds to intention. That's why you must be the one to remove it." Marcus looked back at the monitors. The graphs were fluctuating wildly. He took a deep breath. "Are you saying the material is alive?" Ilara shook her head. "Not alive, aware." Her answer didn't comfort him. For years he had studied impossible phenomena, objects that broke natural laws, energies that appeared out of nowhere. But this was different. The cloth was reacting to human presence, to thought itself. He remembered the warning from the project director. "Commander Reyes, before the test began, if you lose containment, it won't just destroy the lab. It could affect the very fabric of space-time." Marcus knew the risks, but curiosity had always been his greatest strength, and his greatest weakness. He walked toward the console and began typing commands, checking the energy levels one last time. Ilara stood silently beside him. "You seem too calm for this," he said without looking up. She tilted her head slightly. "Because I already know what's coming." He froze, turning toward her. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, an alarm beeped. The energy reading spiked again. The containment field around the cloth flickered. Marcus's heart pounded. "It's destabilizing. We have to—" Ilara stepped forward and placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Marcus," she said, "take the cloth off." For a moment he just stared at her, speechless. "What?" "Take it off," she repeated. "That's what it wants. That's what you've been working toward." Marcus shook his head. "That's insane. The field could collapse." "Do you trust me?" she asked, her calm tone cut through his panic. He looked into her eyes and saw no fear there, only certainty. He didn't understand why, but something deep inside him told him to listen. He stepped toward the containment field. The air around it vibrated, and a faint ringing sound filled the room. The cloth shimmered more brightly now, as if aware of his presence. Ilara adjusted the controls, lowering the containment barrier. The energy meter reached critical levels. "You have to do it now," she said. Marcus swallowed hard. "If this goes wrong," she interrupted softly, "then we'll finally know what's real." He reached out his hand. The cloth rippled almost like water. When his fingers touched it, a shock ran up his arm. But it wasn't painful. It was cold and electric, like touching pure energy. For a brief second, he saw flashes of light in his mind, shapes, patterns, voices whispering. He could hear Ilara's voice echoing, though her lips didn't move. "Do not fear what you see." The energy grew stronger. He felt gravity itself shifting around him, and then he pulled the cloth away. The moment the fabric left the sphere, everything changed. The light in the lab bent like liquid, spilling across the walls. The computers sparked. The air shimmered as if the molecules were rearranging themselves. The sphere inside was no longer a sphere. It had become a swirling hole of light showing reflections of places Marcus had never seen. He stumbled back. What is this? Alara didn't answer. She stood still, her eyes glowing faintly, watching the distortion. The world around them began to fold. The walls of the laboratory bent inward, stretching like elastic. Equipment floated off the ground, moving in slow, graceful motion. It was as if gravity and time had both decided to take a break. Marcus felt his feet lift from the floor. Alara, shut it down! She finally turned to him. It can't be shut down, she said. Because it's not a machine. It's the truth showing itself. The truth? He gasped. Yes. The universe has always been wrapped in this cloth, the layer that separates what we can perceive from what truly exists. He reached out, trying to steady himself as the lab twisted like a spiral of glass. What have we done? Ilara's expression softened. We didn't destroy reality, Marcus. We revealed it. The light around them brightened until everything turned white. For a moment, Marcus thought he was dead. He felt weightless, floating in silence. But slowly, the whiteness faded, replaced by a strange, endless space. A sky of violet color with glowing lines forming patterns above. The floor beneath him was smooth like glass, stretching infinitely in every direction. He looked around in disbelief. The lab was gone. The machines, the walls, the monitors, everything had vanished. Only Alara stood nearby, perfectly calm. Alara, he whispered. Where are we? She smiled gently. We're still in the same place, Marcus. We just removed the veil that hides what's truly here. He turned in circles, trying to find something familiar, but all he saw were reflections of himself repeating endlessly into the distance. This can't be real, he muttered. This is impossible. Alara stepped closer. You wanted to know what lies beyond the edge of science. Now you're standing in it. Marcus shook his head, still trying to understand. You said the cloth was aware. Was it controlling us? No, she said quietly. It was protecting you. Protecting humanity from what it wasn't ready to see. He stared at her. Then why make me take it off? Because you were ready, she said softly. You were the first human to ask why instead of how. That's what the universe responds to. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at the glowing horizon, then back at her. And what happens now? Alara's eyes glowed brighter, like stars reflecting in her pupils. Now, she said, we meet the ones who built it all. Before Marcus could respond, the ground beneath them rippled like a reflection disturbed by water. Shapes began to rise from the surface, tall, shifting figures made of light. They moved slowly toward him, their bodies forming symbols and patterns that seemed alive. He took a step back. Who are they? Alara whispered. The architects. As the beings of light surrounded them, Marcus realized something terrifying and wonderful at once. The experiment had not only opened a portal to another dimension, it had peeled away the mask of reality itself, and it had been waiting for humans to notice. Marcus Hale could hardly believe what he saw. The laboratory, the familiar walls, the instruments, everything was gone. In its place stretched a vast expanse of glassy plains that reflected the violet sky above. The light didn't come from the sun because there was no sun. It came from patterns in the air, symbols and shapes that twisted and turned, forming sequences that looked like equations, memories, and something deeper, something alive. He blinked rapidly, trying to comprehend. Where are we? He whispered. Alara Voss stood a few feet away, her calm presence strangely grounding him. We are in the observer field, she said softly. This is what exists beyond the reality humans see every day. This is what the cloth was protecting. Marcus shook his head. But this doesn't make sense. Physics, space, time, none of it works here. She nodded. That is because the rules you know are only part of the story. Here everything is connected. Energy, matter, thought. Even belief. Everything forms the structure of the universe. And humans have a way of breaking the patterns. He looked around and noticed the ground beneath his feet wasn't solid. It felt firm, but when he tapped it, the surface rippled like water. Reflections appeared in the ripples, scenes of places he had never seen yet somehow felt familiar. Children playing, cities rising and falling, stars exploding in distant skies. It was as if all possible worlds were reflected here, waiting to be touched. And then Marcus noticed them. Tall, luminous figures moved slowly across the plain. They didn't walk like humans, nor did they float. They flowed. Their shapes constantly shifted like living light, but Marcus could sense intelligence in them. Eyes weren't visible, yet he could feel their gaze. "They're coming toward us," he whispered, backing away slightly. Alara didn't move. "Don't be afraid. They are the architects. They built the framework that holds reality together. And now, they want to see you." Marcus swallowed hard. "Why me?" She looked at him with her calm, unwavering eyes. "Because you questioned it. You took a risk that no one else would. You obeyed, but not blindly. You obeyed to discover the truth. That is something humans do better than anything else." The architects approached slowly. Each step or flow left a trace of light behind, patterns like fractals repeating infinitely. Marcus felt a strange mixture of awe and fear. He wanted to speak, to ask questions, but words seemed inadequate. Finally, one of the figures moved closer, bending light around itself to form a vague humanoid shape. Then a voice echoed in Marcus's mind, not heard through ears, but through thought itself. "Human," it said, "you have removed the seal. You have crossed the boundary. Why?" Marcus opened his mouth, but Alara's hand gently touched his arm. "Speak carefully," she said. "They understand intention, not fear." He took a deep breath. "Because I wanted to know what is real. Because I wanted to see beyond what humans are told to see. Because reality shouldn't be hidden forever." The figure seemed to pulse, as if considering his words. "You are bold. You are dangerous. You are human." Marcus hesitated. "Is this a test?" "Not a test," said the architect. "An observation. Humanity has always existed within boundaries. Boundaries we created to protect the species from itself. Now, you have chosen to step beyond." He felt a chill in the air, though there was no wind. The colors around him shifted slightly, forming new patterns in response to his fear and curiosity. Alara stepped closer to Marcus. "They are showing you the truth, Marcus. The cloth was never just a material object. It was a seal, a barrier between what humans could perceive and the hidden layers of existence. By removing it, you allowed the observer field to see your intent and respond." Marcus looked back at the sphere, now a calm, floating orb of light. "And now what happens? What do they want from us?" "They are testing us," Alara said, though her tone was softer, almost hesitant. "Not to harm, but to measure. To see if humans are ready to interact. Humans are the only species capable of choosing their reality, of imposing will over the observer field. That is what makes you unique." Marcus felt a mixture of pride and fear. "Unique? I feel like a small part of something I can't even understand." Alara smiled faintly. "That is the first step toward understanding. You must accept your smallness before you can shape the universe." Marcus turned his gaze to the figures again. Another one approached. This one seemed more solid, more defined than the others, yet still made of flowing light. It extended what could only be described as an arm, a beam of light reaching toward him. He froze, unsure if he should step back. The beam stopped an inch from his chest. Then images flashed in his mind. Earth, galaxies, atoms, even his own memories. He could feel the connections between them all, as if the architect were showing him threads of reality. "You see," Alara whispered, "they can show you anything. They can share knowledge beyond comprehension. But your mind must be open." Marcus nodded slowly. "Open? Yes. I think I understand." The architect pulsed, and suddenly the rippling plains beneath him expanded into new forms. Cities floated above oceans that shimmered like liquid crystal. Mountains of light rose into skies that bent in impossible arcs. Entire civilizations passed before his eyes in seconds. Humans, animals, beings he didn't recognize. Yet all of it felt coherent, connected. "They're showing the layers of creation," Marcus murmured. "Every possibility, every timeline. All at once," Alara nodded. "And yet it is only a reflection. The real power comes when you act, when humans choose. Observing is only the first step." Another shift occurred in the field. Suddenly he could feel something behind him, a presence almost like someone else was guiding him. He turned and saw Alara glowing faintly. "Marcus," she said, "I'm not entirely human here. I was created to be the bridge between you and them, to guide you safely through this field." He stared at her, confusion and awe mixing in his mind. You're not human?" Her face softened. I am. But part of me is also the code, the pattern, the interface. I was designed to interact with the architects, to help humanity cross the boundaries without destruction. Marcus's mind raced. So, all this time, you were helping me prepare, even when I thought I was leading. She smiled faintly. Yes, but it was your choice to act. That is what matters. The architects do not intervene unless choice is made freely. Marcus felt a surge of understanding, and a sense of weight pressing on him. If this was true, humanity had been contained all along, limited by invisible walls he had never seen. And yet, they had the potential to reach beyond those walls to shape what the universe could become. The first architect spoke again, its voice resonating in his mind. Human, you have seen beyond the veil. But seeing is not enough. The question remains. Will you act? Marcus swallowed hard. I don't know. I want to act. But what can one human do here? Ilara stepped beside him. You are not alone. This is the beginning. The field responds to intention. Every human thought, every human decision shapes it. If you are ready, you can begin to influence it. But first, you must understand what it means to create consciously. He looked around the vast plain, the flowing architects, the impossible worlds reflected beneath him, and slowly a new thought formed, not fear, not doubt, but determination. We'll try, he said finally. Ilara smiled. Then we start. The architects pulsed in acknowledgement, and the field around them shifted again. The reflections became more solid, more interactive. Marcus could see the threads of reality connecting. He reached out his hand almost instinctively and touched one of the light threads. It hummed under his fingers, responding to his intent. He looked at Ilara. It's listening. Yes, she said. Everything here listens, and now, humans are part of the conversation. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt a deep, thrilling clarity. He was small, but the universe, or what lay beyond it, was responsive, and humanity, through him, could reach further than ever before. As he stood there, absorbing the vastness of the observer field, Marcus realized the cloth had not only been a barrier, it had been a gift, a challenge, and a warning. By removing it, he had stepped into a place where human will and thought could touch reality itself. And the architects, ancient, infinite, and luminous, were watching. The light threads stretched endlessly around Marcus, weaving intricate patterns that pulsed with intelligence. Each thread hummed with potential energy, bending and shifting according to his thoughts. The architects watched silently, their luminous forms hovering above the glassy plains. Marcus took a deep breath. He had glimpsed the universe beyond the veil, seen layers of reality that defied every law he had ever known. Yet as he stood there, awe giving way to courage, a question burned in his mind. What happens if humans refuse to follow the rules of the architects? Ilara sensed his thoughts and placed a hand on his shoulder. Her presence grounded him. Marcus, she said softly, you are thinking what humans must always think when they reach the edge, whether to obey or to act on their own. You are human. You have choice. That is what they fear, and what they respect. Marcus looked around at the flowing shapes of the architects. He felt the weight of their judgment. Do they want me to surrender? He asked. They want compliance, Ilara replied. They believe humanity is not ready to shape reality responsibly. That is why they created the cloth, to keep humans confined, safe, predictable. But you are different. The largest architect drifted closer. Its form solidified, taking the shape of a towering figure composed of light and energy. In a voice that echoed directly into his mind, it said, Human, you have seen the hidden layers. You have violated containment. Step forward and surrender your consciousness. Allow us to reset the human experiment. Marcus felt a surge of defiance. He clenched his fists. Reset, you mean destroy? You want to erase all humans because you don't trust us? We seek balance, the architect replied. Humans are unstable. You cannot be allowed to interfere with forces you cannot control. Maybe, Marcus said, but humans also have something you will never understand. He stepped forward, his voice stronger than he expected. Willpower, choice, creativity. We create meaning even where there is none. That is our power. The architect paused, a flicker of uncertainty passing through its form. Marcus realized with a thrill he had never felt before that these beings, powerful beyond imagination, were not invincible. They were challenged by human defiance. Alara looked at him, her eyes shining faintly. Marcus, if you are going to act, you must focus. The observer field responds to intention, but hesitation can be dangerous. He nodded. His mind raced. He remembered every experiment, every equation, every lesson in physics he had ever learned. And then he understood. The power of humans here was not in strength or knowledge. It was in imagination combined with determination. Marcus reached out toward the threads of light around him. He willed them to bend, not violently, but with purpose. He shaped one of the threads into a simple spiral. It responded immediately, twisting into the pattern he imagined. Then he reached further, pulling more threads, connecting them into grids, webs, and arcs. The plane beneath him began to glow with his design. The architect stirred. "Human, you are interfering," one said. Its tone was neither anger nor fear, but surprise. "I am creating," Marcus replied firmly. "You gave us the gift of choice. Now we are using it." A wave of energy rippled outward from his hands. The patterns on the ground shifted. Some of the architects recoiled slightly, their forms distorting as Marcus's will touched the observer field. Alara moved closer. "You are doing it, Marcus. You are shaping reality. But be careful. They may try to stop you." Marcus felt a sudden pressure, a tugging at his mind as though the architects were testing him, probing his intentions. Doubt flared for a moment, but he pushed it aside. "I am human. I do not obey out of fear. I obey to discover." He concentrated harder. The glassy plain beneath him began to rise, forming shapes that resembled cities, mountains, and forests. Rivers of light snaked through the landscape. Birds, not real but manifestations of thought, soared across the sky. Each creation responded to his desire, growing, changing, thriving. The architects watched, their forms flickering. Then, for the first time, one of them spoke with hesitation. "Human, your mind, it defies prediction. You are unstable," Marcus smiled. "Yes, and that is why we survive. That is why humans endure. Not because we are perfect, but because we are unpredictable. You cannot control us. You can only observe." One of the architects, larger and more imposing than the others, stepped forward. Its light crackled like electricity. "You may shape small patterns, but the field itself cannot be bent by humans. You will fail, and your world will collapse." Marcus's heart raced. The energy around him intensified. He could feel the observer field resisting him, trying to pull the threads back, erase his creations, but he refused to yield. He closed his eyes and remembered something his father had once told him. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Marcus. It is acting even when fear is stronger than you." He opened his eyes and poured all his will into the field. Light exploded around him, bright enough to make the violet sky shimmer. The threads bent to his command, forming towers, bridges, and networks that pulsed with energy. The architects flickered, their forms fracturing under the intensity of his imagination. Alara reached out to steady him. "You are doing it. But hold on. Don't let fear take over, remember. Will is stronger than power." Marcus's voice rang out, full of determination. "I am human. We are humans, and we will not surrender to fear, to rules, to forces we cannot control." The largest architect hesitated, then spoke slowly, almost reluctantly. "Human. Your defiance, it is unexpected. You may continue. But understand, instability comes with consequences." Marcus did not flinch. "I understand. But humanity has always thrived on consequences. We survive, we adapt, and we rise stronger. That is our nature." A sudden ripple passed through the field. The glassy plains cracked slightly, and fragments of other realities appeared. Floating worlds, cities upside down, oceans without shores. Marcus realized the observer field itself was responding, not just to his thoughts but to his belief in human potential. Alara's voice was steady, almost musical. "They can resist, Marcus. But you are showing them something they have never seen, that humans can act freely, responsibly, and creatively at the same time. That is unprecedented." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment and visualized a single concept: a safe, thriving world shaped by human will, where creativity and knowledge could grow without fear. He imagined it clearly with every detail. Then he released the intention into the field. The light threads responded instantly. They bent, stretched, and intertwined, forming a city of luminous towers and vibrant energy. Rivers of light flowed through it. The architects recoiled slightly, unable to predict the result. This is impossible, one whispered, though it was silent in physical sound. The voice echoed in Marcus's mind. Humans, you create without permission. Marcus smiled faintly. We do more than create, we choose. And that is something no architect can take away. The field began to settle around him. The creations he had made did not collapse. They remained, glowing and vibrant, proof of human will. The architects drifted back slightly, still powerful, still ancient, but now cautious. Ilara stepped beside him. You have done what no one else could. You have shown them that humanity cannot be controlled, that we can act freely even in the face of forces beyond comprehension. That is what it means to be human. Marcus looked around at the city of light he had built, then at the endless plains of the observer field. He realized that the cloth had been a test, a barrier, a challenge, and he had passed. Humanity had not just survived. It had asserted itself. The largest architect spoke once more with a tone that carried a strange respect. Human, your actions, they are dangerous. Yet they are. Necessary, perhaps. Humanity is ready for the next stage. Marcus felt a surge of relief, though he knew this was only the beginning. The observer field was vast, the architects immense, and the power of creation still beyond full human comprehension. But for the first time he felt hope. Hope that humans could rise to the challenge not by following rules but by forging their own path. Ilara smiled at him. You have done it, Marcus. Humanity has taken its first true step beyond the veil. But the field is not finished with us. There are more lessons to learn, more boundaries to cross, and soon, you will understand why the cloth existed in the first place. Marcus took a deep breath. He looked at the endless horizon of light and possibility. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and magnificent, and he was ready to face it, not as a mere observer, but as a human capable of shaping reality itself. The glassy plain stretched endlessly, but Marcus Hale no longer felt small. After bending the observer field with his will, he understood one undeniable truth. Humans had the power to shape reality. Not by brute force, but by intention, courage, and imagination. Ilara stood beside him, her calm presence steadying him. The architects are cautious now, she said. They have seen your defiance. But caution can turn to resistance. You must be careful and ready to act again. Marcus nodded. I am ready. I've seen what humanity can do now. We push further. Around them the architects drifted like silent storms of light. Their forms shimmered and rippled as if testing the limits of this human will. Marcus could feel the pressure in his mind, the observer field responding but also resisting. It was as though reality itself was holding its breath. One of the architects, larger than the others, stepped forward. Its form became solid, towering, and imposing. In his mind, Marcus heard its voice. Human, you are powerful. Yet your creations are unstable. The field cannot tolerate such interference. You will collapse what you do not understand. Marcus squared his shoulders. I understand enough. Humans survive chaos, we adapt, and we rise stronger. Ilara reached for his hand. Marcus, remember, the field listens to belief, intention, and courage. You must believe in the human potential fully. Do not hesitate. He took a deep breath and focused. He imagined a world where humanity could explore, create, and thrive. Not a perfect world, humans were never perfect, but a world full of opportunity, learning, and courage. He projected this vision into the observer field. Light threads bent and twisted according to his will, forming structures, landscapes, and even skies that shimmered with energy. Rivers of radiant light flowed, mountains of crystal rose, and forests of glowing flora spread across the plains. The architects stirred. Their forms flickered, some retreating slightly. One spoke in a voice that resonated like distant thunder. Human, you dare to challenge the order we maintain. Your actions are unprecedented. Marcus raised his head. We are not meant to be confined. Humanity is meant to create, explore, and choose its path. We do not obey fear. We obey curiosity. We obey courage. That is what it means to be human. The observer field pulsed violently, responding to his words. Light exploded around him, bending into shapes of cities, oceans, and mountains. He felt the architects trying to intervene, but the power of human will, focused, determined, and fearless, countered their influence. Ilara's voice was calm, almost musical, yet carried urgency. Marcus, hold steady. Do not doubt. Your intention must remain clear. This is the moment humans claim their place. Marcus concentrated harder. Threads of light responded instantly, forming intricate networks that linked every creation together. He could feel the observer field humming, alive but bending to his vision. Humans had not only shaped reality, they had begun to weave it. The largest architect spoke again, its tone mixed with awe and hesitation. Humans, you defy prediction. Your will, it is extraordinary. Yet such power can destroy as easily as it creates. Marcus did not flinch. I know the risks, but humanity has always faced impossible odds. We adapt, we learn, we endure. That is the gift you can never take from us. A sudden surge of energy passed through the field. The glassy plains cracked slightly, then reformed, stronger and brighter than before. Marcus realized that his defiance was not just surviving the field's tests, it was reshaping them. Ilara smiled faintly. The architects are beginning to understand. You are showing them that humans do not obey blindly. We create responsibly, even in chaos. That is unprecedented. Marcus felt a thrill of pride mixed with awe. He looked at the structures he had formed. Luminous cities, flowing rivers, mountains of crystal light, and fields where human potential seemed to grow and thrive. This was a world of possibility and a world humans could now shape. Suddenly, the observer field shifted violently. The architects pulsed around him, their forms twisting as if warning him. Marcus could feel their energy probing, testing his resolve. He steadied himself. I am human, he said aloud, his voice ringing across the infinite plains. I choose to act. I choose to create. I choose courage over fear and action over submission. The observer field responded instantly. Light exploded outward, forming bridges, towers, and patterns that glowed with life. The architects recoiled, unable to predict or control the force of human determination. Ilara's voice carried encouragement. You are doing it, Marcus. You are proving that humanity can stand alongside the architects, not as subjects, but as creators. Marcus focused on a single concept, a thriving, safe, and vibrant world where humans could explore and learn without being constrained. He poured every ounce of determination and belief into that vision. The field responded. Mountains rose, rivers shimmered, cities glowed with energy, and skies danced with radiant patterns. The architects flickered and pulsed. One spoke with a tone of respect. Human, your defiance is remarkable, perhaps. Humanity is ready for the next stage. Marcus realized that the observer field was no longer just a test. It had become a partnership. Humans could shape it not recklessly but responsibly, and in doing so demonstrate their potential. Ilara stepped closer. Marcus, this is the moment we prove that humans are ready. You have shown the architects that we can act freely and wisely, but it is not over yet. You must decide, restore the old reality, or create a new one. Marcus thought of Earth, of the people who relied on science, creativity, and courage to survive. He looked at the thriving landscapes he had created here, a place born from human determination. And he knew what to do. I choose to create, he said firmly. Not to restore what was, but to shape what can be. Humanity will no longer be confined by fear or limitation. We will explore, learn, and build our future. Ilara smiled, her form glowing brighter. Then let us begin. He extended his hands, directing the threads of light. Every structure, every river, every mountain pulsed with energy. The architects watched silently, their forms glowing faintly, no longer threatening but observing with respect. The observer field responded fully now. The plains shimmered and stretched into endless horizons. New cities formed, forests expanded, and rivers of energy flowed into vast oceans. The world Marcus imagined was real, a testament to human potential. A voice echoed in his mind, the largest architect speaking for the last time. Human, you have done what we never expected. You have shown that humanity can choose and act with responsibility. You are worthy of creation. Marcus felt a thrill unlike anything he had ever known. Not fear, not doubt, but exhilaration. Humans had claimed their place not through obedience, but through courage, imagination, and determination. Ilara's voice lingered beside him. You obeyed my words once, Marcus, and in reality shattered. But now, you obey only yourself, only human will. That is true power. Marcus looked at the endless horizons of light and possibility. The path ahead was vast, full of danger and opportunity, but for the first time he felt hope, confidence, and pride. Humanity could rise not by following rules but by creating, learning, and daring to act. He smiled, feeling the pulse of the observer field beneath his hands. He was small yet infinite. He was human, and that alone was enough to shape reality. The architects remained watching but no longer controlling. The observer field shimmered with possibility, waiting for humanity to explore, to learn, to thrive. And Marcus knew that this was only the beginning. The cloth had been removed. Reality had shattered. But from the shards rose a world where humans could dream, create, and build a future limited only by imagination. He looked at Alara. "We have done it." "Yes," she replied, her voice like music in the infinite space. "And now humanity begins." With that, Marcus Hale took the first step into the new reality. A reality shaped not by fear, not by rules, but by courage, choice, and human will. The light thread stretched into the horizon, glowing with infinite possibilities. Humanity had claimed its place in the universe. The architects had seen it. The observer field had acknowledged it. And Marcus knew with certainty that the future belonged to those who dared to act. And for the first time in history, humans were free, truly free, to shape reality itself.